what's up you guys? So every week I'm going to be analyzing the content in each new episode of The Pitt, and this week is no different. Now don't worry, we will be talking about Mel and Langdon, but I'm just going to go through all of the little things I notice and the implications of certain relationship dynamics. First up, is Robbie cracking more bitches? Are we surprised? Not really, but damn does he have a type.
Black queens forever, snow bunnies never. I said black queens forever, snow bunnies never.
Second on the list, Al Hashimi. I don't know how to say her name, guys, because she says her name correctly and then other people say her name Hashimi, but we're just gonna call her Al right now. Is Al really into her AI? Because the woman was giving this.
New face filters on Instagram today. This is my favorite one so far. Nice job, team.
Like, next she's going to be making the med students use meta glasses to diagnose patients. Like, homegirl was doing way too much. Not to mention, my girl Al brings up AI usage again at the very end of the episode with Robbie, and she was really starting to annoy him, which I don't even blame him for being annoyed. She wants to utilize AI because it will save doctors time, but like, AI is extremely harmful to the environment, and the mistakes it could make transcribing don't really seem worth it if it might hurt the patient. Third thing, Langdon confessed to Mel that he was in drug rehab. Like, oh my goodness. Okay.
No, not really. I mean, I heard rumors, but I learned a long time ago not to listen.
I was in rehab.
Oh?
For an addiction to benzos.
He took his shirt off and I went, like I actually had, like my body had a reaction with those
I don't need to know about that. You keep that to yourself.
Which she definitely already knew, but to hear it from Langdon's mouth is interesting. Now, with Langdon's confession to Louis in the first episode, that was completely different because it was like Louis's medication that Langdon stole in the first place. So it likely fit into the 12-step program for Langdon to be apologizing to him. But he didn't necessarily owe Mel an apology or the truth. Langdon seems to be carrying this embarrassment and shame with him throughout the beginning of this shift, and there's really no need for it. I'm sure people have their own opinions about him around the hospital, and sure, it's a little awkward, but like, he's back to do his job, and everyone has to respect that.
Hey. How y'all doing?
Santos, though? She proceeds to avoid Langdon at all costs because she was the reason he got caught in the first place. But eventually they're going to have to confront this. And to me, based on the way Langdon's been talking about his addiction and behaving around people, I'm going to assume that he will be the one apologizing and making Santos feel less awkward about it. And so it's not really going to be some huge fight. Like, everyone was talking about how they're kind of like enemies now. I don't really think that's the place he's coming from. He seems to be very, very kind right now. He was always a really nice guy, even in the first season. So I don't really think it's going to be a huge issue. Okay, back to Mel. Her and Langdon share such a deep connection despite only having known each other for one day. He still remembers a joke he made to her nearly a year ago, and more importantly, Langdon remembers that bright lights can be overwhelming to some patients. He learned this with the autistic man in the first season that he had difficulty treating. Did Langdon turn off the lights because he thinks Mel may be on the spectrum, or was he just using his intuition and being a nice guy? Fourth thing on my list, Dr. fucking Santos. Now, she may be riding a little bit hard now, guys. So basically in the first and second episodes of this new season, we're learning about the case of a little girl with a lot of injuries all over her body. The girl has denied that anyone's hurt her, but it's their job as physicians to rule out abuse. Robbie likes to give people the benefit of the doubt, which we saw with the emo kid in season 1. McKay thought he could be the shooter, but Robbie didn't want to exacerbate the situation without having more information. And a smaller version of the same thing is happening here with this case and Santos. Santos has an implied history with an abuser who ultimately led to the death of her friend. Essentially, we have little bits of information that Santos and her friend were taken advantage of by an older man, but her friend wasn't strong enough to overcome the mental damage that caused her, and she ended up ending her life. And we know this because Santos told I don't really want to say why he was in the ER, but you guys know who I'm talking about. Santos sees this little girl, and she's immediately very suspicious of the situation. She makes a joke to the social worker about finding the girl's dad herself.
Conclusions just yet?
I'm not jumping. I'm just saying if this dude doesn't show up, hell, I'll go find him myself.
Is this girl actually being abused? We don't know. People have speculated that she could have an autoimmune disorder instead, which results in easy bruising all over the body. Fifth thing I want to talk about. Santos again, I know, she's popular. She's instigating, guys. Santos gets in Javadi's head during this episode and tells her that the new med student, Ogilvy, who I don't even want to talk about because he's pissing me off. I'm sorry, I have a cold. The new med student, Ogilvy, which, oh my god, that is like such an ugly last name. I'm sorry to anyone who has that last name. His name is actually James, and yet they all collectively call him Ogilvy. I would crash out, but whatever. So Ogilvy is apparently Javadi's competition for a spot at PTMC. That is what Santos tells her. Now, Javadi's super surprised by this notion, and she immediately denies it. But then she instantly starts competing against him in a fact war to prove herself as the more capable med student. And this is funny, but also it gave me secondhand embarrassment, like mainly on Ogilvy's part. Okay, he was sweet in the first episode, but now he's no longer giving eager to learn, but instead he's giving know-it-all. And to me, he took it way too far when he undermined Whitaker in front of Robbie. Not that Whitaker cared, or Robbie, but it's just kind of a dick move. Javadi should focus on herself and thriving in her own lane, which is what she was doing before Santos got in her head. Javadi's extremely skilled and kind-hearted, and with her mom being a surgeon at the same hospital, she's pretty much guaranteed a spot wherever she wants. And some people might disagree, but I don't know. I think she's gonna be fine either way, okay? Her mom's a doctor. Okay, so my last note for this episode is that Whitaker and the elderly woman whose husband died reminds me so much of the episodes where Dr. Carter treated the old lady guest star, aka Rosemary Clooney, in ER.
Ethan's still here?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, please.
I don't think so. I'll get it. Who was Jimmy?
I wonder if they're setting up Whitaker's character to kind of be like a John Carter, very gentle and connecting with patients in special ways, so I'm curious to see where this goes. Okay, so that was all of my sort of observations of this episode. So far, the show is pretty light-hearted. Nothing very deeply intense is going on, and really the reason for that is because in season 1, we immediately got sort of presented with, I don't want to say a lot, but at least sort of 2 characters that were already going through so much. Like with Collins, there was this like underlying anxiety because she's pregnant and she really doesn't want anything to happen to her pregnancy. And then with Robbie, we know that this is the day that his mentor died. So it's like there was a constant undercurrent in season 1 of stuff that the doctors brought into the ER from their personal lives. But in this new season, we don't really know what's going on in their personal lives. So it's sort of like no humongous trauma has came in. I mean, the one with the clamshell in the first episode, that was pretty intense. But still, nothing crazy's happened yet. So my observations are sort of just play-by-play of the episode. But the loss of Collins! Okay, so apparently Wiley stated that they had 0 issue with the actress who played Heather and that her departure was instead because they didn't want to use her character anymore. And like, I'm generally fine with this, but the thing is, they added 4 new characters, okay? Ogilvy, Joy, Emma, aka the new nurse, and our girl Al. Okay, Al. So that's 4 new main ensemble characters. 4, and I do appreciate the fact that this is extremely realistic, especially when the med students are doing a rotation in the ER, meaning that they aren't necessarily going to work here when the rotation is over. But at the same time, like, maybe replacing 1 fully fleshed out character with 4 alright characters isn't like my favorite thing to see. And yes, it's only been 2 episodes, but Collins was a very different character. We learned immediately that she was pregnant in the first 10 minutes of the show, and that was like a huge connection point between her and the audience, especially when we learned not that much later that she had a miscarriage in the pit on the job. But regardless, I'm still enjoying the new characters, and Joy is really cool to see because even though she's a 3rd-year med student, she's obviously older than most med students. She didn't go to med school right after high school, and I appreciate how laid back she is. She got there with hard work, but she has 0 interest in sucking up to people or trying to be someone she isn't, and that's an attitude that only people with more life experience possess. Another note, Robbie kind of feels like a stranger to me now. I think the perspective we got of Robbie's character in the first season is very different to who he is on a day-to-day basis, which is one of the major limitations of this show. I kind of wish they would eventually switch to a normal timeline, but they probably won't because this is like their thing now. The purpose of the live time episodes is that it pronounces the dedication to realism and gives the audience this like wow factor, like, wow, I can't believe all of this stuff happened in 1 hour. I never knew it was this difficult to be a doctor. And this timeline is great from a realism and medicine point of view, but from the TV point of view, which is what I care about, the entire season of character development taking place in one day really hinders the audience's ability to learn about the characters' lives, understand them, and see relationships develop. If Robbie gets a love interest or anyone else does, we're most likely not going to see that. But to explain what I started talking about, we saw Robbie on the hardest day of his life, and that made him softer in that respect. And now that we're seeing Robbie on a day where he's doing a little better, he's like kind of sus. I don't know. He just kind of seems like a typical white man rather than the unicorn he felt like in the first season. And that's fine. It's just interesting. I don't know if other people are feeling this, but there was just something deeply special about him in that first season. And now it's like he's just sort of like, he's just like a regular guy. I don't know. He's just, he's just regular schmegular. And I think we only really characterize Robbie in that way because he was so vulnerable that whole first season. And that's what I mean with the whole one day thing. It's like, I don't really know anybody if I'm only getting to know them on one day, but I don't know. Comment down your thoughts below, what you think of this second episode, how it's setting the tone for the rest of the season, your thoughts on everybody, just go ahead and, okay. I don't have anything else to say. But you're supposed to come back next week, so okay, bye.